are you looking for a job? Which platform do you think of first? Do you go to Monster or Indeed? Or do you head over to LinkedIn first? I'm sure all of us know the answer. LinkedIn is surely a ladder that connects your dreams to your destiny. Most of its users have the professional goal of securing a good job. With variety of opportunities that flow on this platform, LinkedIn ensures that there is something for everyone. Whether you are a fresh graduate hunting for a safe job or a professional who is aiming at switching the current job profile for either a better salary or better job description, LinkedIn ensures that you find exactly what you're looking for. Looking for a job has never been so simple, and that's all thanks to LinkedIn. But simple things don't necessarily mean that they are easy to do, right? Job seekers don't really understand how to use LinkedIn effectively as a job search tool. They don't know what the recruiters are looking for exactly, and that is such a disappointing thing, right? Because LinkedIn is the only platform that can help you connect with the relevant people and get you that much awaited interview. So to bridge this knowledge gap, I have invited Shanna Landolt to the LinkedIn podcast. Shanna is basically a superwoman, guys. I've been following her for quite some time on LinkedIn. She is an executive recruiter, LinkedIn expert, LinkedIn profile writer, best-selling author, a speaker, book launcher, and a very nice person who accepted the invitation to appear for this podcast without any hesitation. She has appeared on many shows like NBC, ABC, Fox, CBS, CTV, and City TV as a LinkedIn and a career expert. She is also the number one international best-selling author of the book LinkedIn Secrets from a Top Executive Recruiter, which can be found on Amazon. In addition to working as a LinkedIn expert and executive search consultant, she works with authors to become the number one bestsellers on Amazon. She has more than 20 years of experience in recruitment and HR industry and has been giving amazing LinkedIn advice for many years. Are you amazed yet? I am. And I'm really excited to welcome Shanna to the LinkedIn podcast. Welcome, Shanna. How are you doing? I am really thrilled to have you here.
Well, thank you, Namit. That was quite the introduction,
Yeah.
and it's great to be here today.
That was the introduction that you deserved, actually. So when I was looking through your profile, I knew that I had to get you on this show because I was sure that you would be able to give much needed advice to job seekers out there, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the way I have designed this podcast is I have divided it into two parts. One is how a recruiter like yourself uses LinkedIn, and secondly, how a job seeker should be using LinkedIn. Because I think it's a very important thing to know both the perspective for a job seeker, right? So let's
Ab-
start with your history first. Can you share your professional journey with us, Shanna?
Sure. So I started off not in business at all, but in fact, I started off as an actress in musical theater.
Okay.
And I understudied and performed the role of Fantine in Les Mis at the National Arts Centre and the Royal Alexandra Theatre in Toronto. And then after about 10 years of performing in various musicals and productions, I decided that it was time to get into business because there wasn't very much theater happening in Toronto at that time. And I thought I would get into public relations. And every time I interviewed with a recruitment company, they said, you should be in executive search. So one too many firms said that to me, and I said, all right, it's a sign. I should be in executive search. So that was over 20 years ago, and I haven't looked back. It's been amazing.
Wow, that's quite a interesting story because from I don't know many people who have switched their professions like that from theater to a executive recruiter and that too very successful in their field. So that's quite a journey I'm sure you would have. So I believe that you were among the first people or the early adopters of LinkedIn, right?
I
So
was definitely an early adopter of LinkedIn.
okay,
And in executive search, in the old days, we would have to go rouse to find names. You know, we would
yeah.
badger a receptionist to find out what was the name of a product manager or what was the name of a director of sales. And now, when LinkedIn came about, I joined in 2008.
Wow.
I thought, wow, this is amazing because now I no longer have to worry about who could be in that particular role. I can find them and reach them and network with people and find out people's names and find out what people are doing and grow an extraordinary network that made it possible to find just about anybody.
Yeah, so LinkedIn definitely has made this job easier. You are able to find anyone, and that's the power of LinkedIn. If you want to connect to head of sales, he's right there on LinkedIn, so you can directly message to him. So that has made LinkedIn has made this a lot easier. Yeah. And how much credit do you attribute to LinkedIn to your success? How has LinkedIn helped you to reach where you are right now?
Oh, it's been everything. LinkedIn has helped me to get on television. I've written books about LinkedIn. Every time I do an executive search, I do LinkedIn. When I'm looking for new clients for my book launching business, I go on LinkedIn and reach out to authors and see if they would be interested in using my services. So whether it's from a recruitment perspective or a business development perspective or a networking perspective, I give LinkedIn the credit.
Okay, wow. So, my next question was, what are your top two objectives? So, I believe networking and finding leads for your business, these would be your top two objectives, right?
Yes, and finding new clients and new candidates.
Okay, all right. And how much time do you spend on a daily basis on LinkedIn? Because I believe that you would be very busy, right? So, do you
Yes.
get time to spend on LinkedIn?
In fact, I spend almost all my time on LinkedIn, at least three
Okay.
to 5 hours a day.
Wow. Okay. And just to search new leads, new customers, things like that, to engage with people on LinkedIn. Okay.
Yes, so I use the LinkedIn InMail feature
Okay.
where I send people messages, and in the message, I put a link to my calendar so that they can
Okay.
automatically go to my calendar and book an appointment to speak with me.
Okay, that's a very effective way to reach out to someone and get the booking directly right then and there. So that's an interesting use of LinkedIn. So to use that inmate feature, you have to have LinkedIn Premium account, right? But what advice do you have for those people who do not have LinkedIn Premium? Do you want them to purchase it? Is it worth it?
It's for most people, they don't need LinkedIn Premium. If you're happily working right now, the regular version is fine. Now,
Okay.
if you're looking for a job, you might want to use the job seeker version because it does give you a certain number of in-mails. However, one of the things that you can just do is if you send a connection request to somebody and put a really credible reason for why you want to connect with them, most people will connect with you.
Okay.
So you can connect, and then once you're connected, you can message back and forth very easily.
Yeah, that's a most important use of LinkedIn in terms of job search. Absolutely. So coming to, I want to understand a little bit more about your LinkedIn journey. So what has been your biggest success till now, and if any failures you have experienced or any setbacks?
Sure. I mentioned sending connection requests. I used to, when I first started, I would send a connection request just thinking that people would want to connect with me because of who I was. And I had too many people say no to the connection request. And
Yeah.
LinkedIn actually suspended my privileges of connecting with people unless I had their email address for a while. So
Okay.
that was a big eye opener for me to make
Yeah.
sure that when I sent a connection request, that I sent it with a note as well saying why it was that I wanted to
Hmm.
connect with this person and how we were connected.
Okay, so you mean personalizing the messages that you send. Okay,
Yeah.
and any success stories that you want to share?
Boy, in terms of success stories, I've gotten clients out of LinkedIn. So a client is worth at least about $200,000 at a minimum for me.
Wow.
So getting new clients on LinkedIn is a big success story. My entire book launching business has been built out of LinkedIn messages.
Wow, that's interesting. And I believe everything would be organic, right? You would not be spending money in this case because you have to work for it organically. You would be reaching out to people yourself. You would not be spending money to do that, right?
Right.
Okay, great, great. So, what are the key areas that you focus on? Is it the content? Is it networking? What is your LinkedIn strategy? How do you approach people?
So when I approach people, I send them an email saying, "Can we talk about," and then whatever it is that I want to talk about, making your book a number one bestseller on Amazon, or can we talk about a director of operations role that I'm recruiting for? Then I'll introduce myself. I'll say, hi, my name is Shanna. I'm a book launcher, or I'm a recruiter specializing in pharmaceutical and biotechnology. And I'll mention the role that I'm recruiting for and ask, are they open to hearing about new possibilities right now or new opportunities? And then if they are, I say, would you like to see a copy of the job brief? So I don't
Okay.
send the job brief right away. I want them to engage with me and say, yes, please let me see the job brief. And I also give them a link to my calendar so that they can view a time and schedule a conversation with me so that we can move from being a online connection to a one-on-one personal connection.
Okay.
And then obviously everybody that I speak with is not going to launch a book with me or is not going to be the finalist candidate for a role. But what I try and do is once I speak with people, I send them a thank you connection request.
Yeah.
So in a connection request, I'll say, it was great to speak with you about this opportunity with whatever the company name is. Let's connect on LinkedIn for the future, Shanna. And
Okay.
everybody, when I send that message, they always accept my request.
Yeah. So guys, that's a very important tip. You have to engage with your users and make sure that you send them, make it easier for them to connect with you on LinkedIn or outside LinkedIn. That's a very important thing that you can do. Okay. So now coming to the job seeker part, what are your thoughts on the importance of building personal brand today? How important is it for job seekers to have a personal brand on LinkedIn, especially?
Yeah, for job seekers, it's incredibly important to create a personal brand, and this is where the majority of people fail: is they don't create a personal brand, and LinkedIn gives you an opportunity to do that. So the first area is in the top box by putting a image in the top box, an image that's representative of either the function that you operate in, or the field that you operate in, or your company, or something that speaks to your values in that top box to make it colorful.
Okay.
Then the next step in creating a personal brand on LinkedIn would be the use of media. So if you've never been on media, that's fine. You can borrow TED Talks, you could borrow videos about the company that you work for and place media in your LinkedIn profile so that it looks good. And then secondly, YouTube is owned by Google, so it'll help you come up higher in a Google search as well.
Yeah.
Um, and then thirdly, the about section or the summary section on LinkedIn allows you to really, you've got 2,000 characters where you can create a message about who you are. Now, I recommend that people use headings and small blocks of text, not big, long paragraphs, because
Yeah.
people don't read so much these days as they scan. So it helps to create your personal brand when you use a series of headings. If you were in pharmaceuticals, for example, you could put therapeutic areas, my vision for the patient. If you worked in marketing, you could put product launches that I've been a part of, and then list those product launches. You could put a section called achievements, things that have you stand out, and then list your achievements.
Okay. All right. Do you think content is also a part of personal brand? The kind of post that you put out, does that also help you build that personal brand, in the eyes of recruiters?
Um, Not so much. I know LinkedIn is hungry for content, so they're always telling you to produce content. Um, but content, if you are actively looking for a role in a job search, let's say, for example, you're unemployed, putting content out at that time is timely because it will have people think about you
Yeah.
when they
Okay.
scroll through LinkedIn. But if you're happily employed, I wouldn't worry about content unless you were a business owner. Now, if you were
Yeah.
a business owner and you had a personal brand and professional brand that you wanted to really market, then content would be great. So the answer is it depends. It depends on what your objective is. But the ordinary average person doesn't have to worry about publishing a lot of content on LinkedIn. They
Okay.
just want to make sure they're findable. And how to be findable is really making sure that your keywords are in the right areas of your LinkedIn profile.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. Based on your objective, what you want to achieve through LinkedIn, you have to do these certain activities. So, what are the top three things that an active job seeker needs to do on LinkedIn?
All right. So first of all, if let's take a look at the location. Let's say that I'm in Canada. Let's say I'm in Toronto, but I want to work in Vancouver. Or right now you're in India, but soon you're going to be in Toronto. You should have the destination location as where you are. because if I'm doing a search for Vancouver, I'm not likely to look at people in Toronto. Or if I'm doing a search in Toronto, I'm not likely to look at people in India. So
Yes.
you have to make sure that your location is where the job is that you want.
Okay.
And we have the ability to search within a certain parameter of cities. So it's geographical in terms of the searches that we do as recruiters. The second thing that I would look at is make sure that your headline has the appropriate keywords for your job and industry. So some people have fancy job titles that mean nothing outside of their organization.
Yeah.
If you are a receptionist, but your title is Chief People Welcomer, people
Yes.
won't be searching Chief People
Yeah.
Welcomer. They'll be searching Administrative Assistant or
Yeah.
Receptionist. So you want to make sure that the words you use are the same words that a recruiter would use if they were trying to find you. Or if you're a director, you don't want to just put director, you want to put director of quality assurance
Okay.
or director of finance. And some people could have multiple roles, like they maybe they were a VP in the past and now they're a director or vice versa. Having the multiple titles in your headline is a great strategy. And then the third strategy I would say is LinkedIn gives you an area to put keywords. And I want those keywords to be all of the technical language that you use in your industry that might be searchable for a
Okay.
recruiter.
All right. So
And
I understand you
it,
have to include those keywords which people are searching, not that what you think is relevant for you, but rather what the recruiter will be searching on LinkedIn, right?
yes.
All right. And now coming to the next point, can you share some insights on how to approach recruiters? Because I have been, for example, I'm looking for a job. I would send some message to a recruiter saying that, hi, I'm looking for a job. Can you help me? It doesn't really work out every time, right? So any advice on how to approach recruiters?
Sure. So it's if you're looking to move from one country to another, it's very difficult to use a recruiter because a recruiter is typically looking for somebody who has local experience. So for example, in my career in 20 years, I've placed two international candidates in roles. Everybody else has been native to Canada.
Okay.
Um, but what I would recommend is connect with the recruiter just through a connection request as opposed to an in-mail, because you then become a part of their network and you can leverage their network. It works in terms of 3 degrees of separation.
Okay.
So recruiters have big networks. So just by virtue of being connected to a recruiter, one of the things that's important if you are looking at working in Canada, which is different than other countries, is not to use dear sir or dear madam. We just use first names.
Yeah.
So
All right.
Shanna, I'm moving to Canada. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. Nimi.
Yeah, so that's how I reach to you. And now coming to the networking aspect of LinkedIn, what do you think? What are the networking mistakes that any job seeker or people in general on LinkedIn make? What is the best strategy for that?
All right. One of the mistakes that people make is just assuming that just because I'm in your network, that I'd be willing to make an introduction on your behalf, or that
Yeah,
someone would be willing to make an introduction on your behalf. You have to remember that there's your LinkedIn tight connections, like people that you know that you've worked with, and then I have I think 15,000 or 16,000 LinkedIn connections, so I don't know everybody in
yeah,
my LinkedIn network. So one of the mistakes is assuming that you can get an introduction just because somebody happens to be in a network.
okay,
Now you could say a strategy still should be you should make the request. You could say, Shanna, I'm looking at working at Abbott and would love an introduction. Are you close to anyone who works there, particularly, and then list these names?
yeah.
Can we talk about how you could introduce me inside of that organization?
So don't expect everyone to vouch for you or make an introduction. First, engage with them, develop some connection, then request something. Is that
Yeah,
correct? All right.
that's correct.
Okay. Okay. So can you explain job seekers how they can leverage LinkedIn on how to ace an interview or, the negotiation process? Does LinkedIn help in that?
LinkedIn doesn't really help in terms of acing an interview or the negotiation process, but it does help in creating relationships. So, what I recommend is if you have an interview with a company and you know the names of the people that you're going to interview with, look them up on LinkedIn and then send them a connection request. And you can
Okay.
say, I look forward to my interview with you next Tuesday. Let's connect on LinkedIn and the name. And
Okay.
then the hiring manager and the people interviewing will know that you've been doing your homework.
Yeah.
So it will have you stand out from other candidates.
Understood. Yeah, that makes sense also. And because you need every little edge that you can find while, giving an interview, because there are so many candidates and sometimes people are better than you. So you have to get every advantage that you can get. All right.
Right.
So, Shanna, since you are based out of Canada, you must have interacted with lots of people, lots of new immigrants, right? Who have good qualification but find it difficult to land their first job in Canada. So, what advice do you have for them?
First of all, you will probably have to take a step backwards in terms of your seniority when you get your first job in Canada. Many people I find will actually accept an internship to gain experience or Canadian experience. And then oftentimes that internship role turns into a full time role.
Okay.
Um, don't expect for recruiters to place you. It's unlikely that they'll do that. But do
Okay.
connect with recruiters because they have good networks and you can use their network and leverage your way through that.
Oh,
Um, the other advice that I have for people who are looking for new work is um, get feedback from recruiters on your resume. The style and format of your resume may not be Canadian. It may be more native to India or to whatever country you're coming from. So make sure that it is something you want to look as adapted to Canada as possible.
okay. So, finally, the last question I have is, what is your advice to all the job searchers, aspirational LinkedIn trainers, and professionals out there? Any advice on LinkedIn, how to use that or how to leverage that?
I would say grow your network as quickly as you can. LinkedIn tells you to only connect with people that you know and trust. However, that's not how their algorithm works. Their algorithm works by the more people you're connected with, the larger your network is, the more you can connect to people. So, unless I think somebody is a robot or somebody is going to spam me, I connect with them.
All right.
Particularly if people are in the industry that I recruit in, which happens to be pharmaceutical and biotechnology. I'll connect with everybody that's in that industry. So don't be afraid, and don't forget if somebody's giving you a hard time, you can always block them. It's very
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah. All right. So, Shanna, that brings us to the end of today's episode. And thanks a lot for such a valuable information and giving all these, insightful information into the recruiter's mind when it comes to LinkedIn. I'm sure that if the job seekers applied this knowledge that you have shared today, they'll be able to get a much better results, right? And you can find and follow Shanna on LinkedIn. I'll be sharing the link to her profile in the description along with the link to her best selling book on Amazon. I highly recommend it. So, if you like this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to get notified when the next episode is aired. I will see you in the next episode of the LinkedIn podcast. Thanks a lot, Shanna. Thank you for
Thank
coming here.